Time. All right, in the New Testament, in a book of the Bible called 1 Timothy, the Apostle Paul admonishes his young apprentice, Timothy, with these words: "Watch your life and your doctrine closely." Now, some weeks when you come to this church, the messages really focus on the doctrine. Doctrine is just teachings from the Bible, biblical teachings. And so we might focus on a doctrine like substitutionary atonement and the like. And those messages deal with right believing. They deal with right thinking and right teaching. And other times, when you come here, we deal more with how to put this Christian life into practice on a daily basis. How does God want us to live as His people in 2010 in the city of Cambridge or in the region of Waterloo? And these messages deal, as you can tell, more with right living. And today's message definitely deals more with right living than it does with right doctrine. Indeed, this might be the most practical message that you've ever heard at River City Church if you've been coming. And by now, you all know we're doing a series on the topic of sex, and it's based on a book of the Bible called the Song of Songs, which you can find pretty much at the midway point of the Bible. And today's topic from that series is the topic of dating. And before I go any further, you need to know that the topic of dating itself, as we know it, has a relatively young history. It's not been around for a very long time, as we know it. In fact, throughout much of human history, most of human history, marriages were arranged. Marriages were arranged. And we get an example of an arranged marriage in God's Word in the very first book of the Bible, Genesis. In Genesis chapter 24, a man named Abraham sends his servant to go and find his son Isaac a suitable wife. And when the servant returns with a woman named Rebekah, Isaac takes her as his own. Now guys, can you imagine your dad picking your future wife? Actually, your dad hiring someone to pick your future wife? I mean, I don't think that would go over too well today. I think we'd feel ripped off because we didn't get to be part of the whole dating experience, which can be so exciting. Well, the next era that we moved into is called courting. And that developed during the Victorian era from about the 1830s to about the 1920s. And you should know that courting was not merely about young people going out to have a good time. In fact, courting was a serious family business proposition. And it was preceded by months of formalities that included things like cordial family dinners, supervised outings like walks in the park, and last but not least, a serious chat with the young girl's father. That was courting. And courting had the express purpose of finding a mate. You courted not for entertainment, but to find a mate. And sexual passion in courting was something to be contained, and pre-marriage pregnancy was looked at as a sign of weakness. It was like, that was a weak couple. They should have been able to wait until they were married after the courting era or phase. The term dating, as we know it, started coming into popular use in about the 1920s. And here's what happened is, as a result of the Industrial Revolution, people started having disposable income. Especially in Britain and the United States, young men started having disposable income, which meant, among other things, that when they went to call on a girl, they didn't have to hang out at the girl's parents' house. They could go out together. And this going out only intensified in frequency once the automobile came into common use, especially after World War II. When most people could afford an automobile, people would go out together, and dating as we know it started to flourish. And in 1965, a show called the Dating Game started on television. And all those video vignettes that have been running before each of the talks of the series featuring River City couples who were dating or married, the inspiration for those came from this show, The Dating Game, which has been airing for a very long time, on and off, up until 2000, I think, was the last episode of The Dating Game. And if you want an idea of what it was like, it was a very tame version of The Bachelorette. Okay? So if you've seen The Bachelorette, it's a lot tamer than that. So dating as we know it today has a very young history, less than 100 years. And it is so evolving. Like, this was educational for me to work on this week. I did most of my dating in my mid to early teens up until my early 20s. And it wasn't that long ago, trust me. And when I was young, yeah, you can laugh now, buddy. Okay, but when I was young, there were three kind of contexts for dating outside of just a typical one-on-one date. There was double dating, right? And that was where you went out with your gal or your guy and another couple. And generally, people of my generation, that's how we started dating. My first dates, I had to be driven by my mom or dad somewhere because I didn't have a license. And they were double dates. We'd go bowling or out for pizza or whatever. All right? Double dating.